Hi, we wanted to share an experience with you that we had several years ago, about a time in our lives when we lived without running water or electricity. And yes, it was on purpose. Uh, our hope is that should a time come in your life or in our country where you have to live without running water or electricity, that you would be able to have some practical tips to help you out.
Yeah, that was quite an experience, and maybe you can learn some things from what we learned when we lived without electricity or running water, no
Yeah,
refrigerator, no stove, no washer and dryer, no shower, no bathtub for 8
8 months.
months in that
Hmm.
cabin.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
well, the story starts. We were living down in west central Louisiana.
Right on the Texas border.
Yeah, 110 acres. And Rhonda's parents had had health problems, and we had helped them out. They were doing better, and we had the opportunity to go out and live, out in the mountains of
The
Idaho.
panhandle of
Yep,
beautiful Idaho.
yep,
Yeah, we had some friends that had a cabin that they were going to let us use, and we thought we had an idea about what it was going to be like to live without running water or electricity, but we weren't, you know.
yep. You have to experience some
you
things.
have to you have to experience some things. My grandmother Brown, she had one light bulb in her kitchen and one light bulb in her living room, but they did put running water in her kitchen when I was 9 or 10. So it was kind of sort of. I thought that was roughing it.
Yeah.
But no.
But we started in Louisiana, so we left there. We got rid of our animals that we had down on the farm, and we got rid of
Oh,
about
everything.
everything we had: stove, freezers,
Some things we actually didn't have to, but had not
yeah,
having had the experience, we
yeah.
we didn't we didn't know, so we got rid of
Well, we only went with a truck and a U-Haul.
small U-Haul.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
we could only pack so many things, and we took two dogs with us.
Yes,
Yep,
Roxy
Roxy
and
and
Bowser.
Bowser. So it was a trip too. That is
Whoa,
31
I
hours
had no
to
idea.
over 2,000 miles. That was a long drive.
And you have to
So
think about it. I mean, I was in my late 30s. Oh, I was 40 at that time or older. But anyway, I had been in my home state of Louisiana. I had been in Mississippi. I think I had gone to Tennessee for a short trip. Oh, I had been to Alabama once, to the Gulf Coast, and to visit some family over there. And of course, I've been to Texas, but that was the extent of my traveling. I mean, I had not been anywhere, and whoa, the things I got to see on this trip! It was amazing.
yeah, we had to stop along that long trip, and of course, two dogs. They need to get out and exercise and get some water and food, and we got to see some sights. I think my favorite rest areas and sites were in Wyoming.
I agree. I agree. Watch for snakes on the signs. And then the first time the tumbleweed, as you see there, came rolling across the highway, I was like, "What in the world?" And they were everywhere, just like in what we consider the old west, and you see in the movies, they're just rolling around. They really were just rolling around.
Yeah, that was a long drive, and then the train. We got closer, and we got into the mountains, and then we finally made it to Idaho. We went over Lookout Pass. The elevation is almost 5,000, above sea level. So,
Well, we're glad to see that sign.
yeah, we'd made it. That was a trip, and then the roads got rougher and smaller as we got out in, the backsides and over the mountains, and we made it to this little cabin. No chinking. Um, had a metal roof on it. Had a couple windows.
There was no chinking in the floors either.
Yeah,
You went and bought insulation and boards and put insulation in the up underneath the house
yeah, you had to. I mean,
to
because
stop the
we
winds.
got there
It was
in
November. It was
really.
it was it was the first part of November,
There was no snow on the ground though, that I
No,
remember.
it was starting to snow that day.
Okay.
When we got there, it was
Yeah.
flurrying.
So we ran right into it, leaving all the animals in the garden and the tools, that the tractor and all the the tools we used to be self sufficient. We went right there with just a cabin and a few tools. We didn't have much room for things. We
No, we
had
just didn't.
a small little hand,
Gasoline generator,
gasoline generator that I think we paid.
$150 for,
Yeah, a
something like
couple hundred
that.
dollars for maybe, and we used that to charge the laptop, our two
Cell
phones,
phones.
and run the repeater so we could get a signal from the tower to be able to get on the internet
Hmm.
and get a phone call.
So we only did that for like a couple hours a day.
Yeah, we only ran that thing, yeah, for a couple hours a day. So that was our only bit of electricity that we had, besides a couple batteries, but just little batteries to run
Oh yeah,
flashlights and
headlamps
stuff.
and things.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, we got there, and we didn't have a bunch of wood cut yet, or a lot of things that you need in that situation. But us being us, we just went ahead and did it.
We
Yep.
just said, well, it's got to be done. So you just go ahead and did it. We got everything out of the U-Haul, and then you had to take the U-Haul back into town and then come back out there. And of course, the dogs were shook up. It was new, and different, and it was starting to get cold, as you can see there. The snow had started falling, and um, I think there was that wood was there. There was just a little bit of wood there, and then you guys went and cut us some more. But yeah, just and trying to it. Now this is a one room cabin.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
we're seeing.
there's nothing in there. There's
Yeah,
just it's one room. Um, it was, but it really turned out to be a really good time, a
yeah, it
really
was
blessed time for us.
some
It
really
really
good
was.
memories.
Yeah.
We had a cooler, one
Yep, that red
one
cooler there.
cooler, and that cooler, we when it got warmer, we had to put ice in it, get ice from town, which was a small town, closest one that had a small little hospital, one grocery store,
Two, it had
two.
two.
Okay.
Harvest and IGA, I think
Yeah,
was the other one.
two grocery stores, little laundromat stuff. It was an hour away, so um, you know, the trips to town were, especially when we first got there, were few and far between. But we had a lot of work to do, and now without any electricity, no refrigerator, none of the modern conveniences. I think hand washing clothes probably took more time than you thought it would.
Yes. Now I only washed, excuse me, our necessaries, that we had to have from week to week, because every 2 weeks we would go to town and do to the laundromat and do a big wash. But we didn't have a lot of clothes. We didn't take a lot of clothes, and so the thing that people can't understand, especially this modern age, is if your clothes aren't dirty, you wear them more than once.
Hmm.
If you didn't get them nasty, and if they were just slightly soiled, you wore them more than once. I might wear the same pair of blue jeans for 3 or 4 days, and that sounds to
Hmm.
a lot of people, but that's just the reality of that life. I mean, you didn't wear them funky or stinky or anything, but when you had to wash them by hand, and you had to catch the water, you had to tote the water, you had to heat the water, and that's for washing and for rinsing. And then you had to use your scrub board, uh, and get all those things done. Then you rinse it, and then you wring it. That was the hardest part for me.
Yeah, I helped you rank some
Yeah.
because hand strength is needed. if you had one of those rollers, the old time rollers,
Yes, we
that
talked
would
about
roll it
getting one
out.
of those, but we knew we weren't going to be there
Yeah.
extended, so we didn't. But that would have been really helpful.
Yeah, that would have been.
That would have been a good
So
investment.
how much time do you think it took you, average a week
There,
to?
I'm washing a pair of your work pants and a pair of your blue jeans. So I'm pretty sure the blue jeans and the shirt, some socks and underwear would take me probably a good 45 minutes to an hour to get them, to get the water, to get them soaked, to get them scrubbed, to get them rinsed, to get them wrung out, and to get them drying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got the water from a small mountain runoff stream that flowed by the cabin. We dipped the water as it flowed down out, and then we would strain that water heated up on the wood stove. And that's how you got water to wash.
Well, sometimes we also gather snow, but it takes a lot of snow to make a
Yeah.
little bit of water. So we'd fill up a pot and it would heat, and it wouldn't be, 2 inches of water and that was a boiling bath canner that I'm using, and then you'd bring another bucket of snow in and put it in that until we got enough water, to do
Yep.
with. So it was challenging.
Yep. It was an experience. But there's, I mean, abundant runoff from mountain streams.
Yeah,
So
and the
you,
river was not too far from us, but we didn't have really easy access,
yeah,
to it.
it would have taken a long time to carry any water
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
there. So, yeah, the cabin, inside the cabin.
There I am, of course, drinking coffee.
Yep.
I don't care how hard life gets. You've got to have good coffee. So, yeah, boy, look at that. That's hard to believe. That's been, wow. I don't
Yeah.
even know. That's been 9 years ago or so, or longer
It's
than
been a
that.
minute.
Yeah, yeah, it's been almost 10 years ago. Um, that's my little kitchen area. Um,
Yep, you had a little cast iron hanging thing that Glenn Traer made you to
mhm,
hang the cast iron on.
mhm.
And that, I mean, cast iron's just versatile.
Oh, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
I've
if,
always used it and I've always appreciated it, but that really cemented, if I even needed the cementing, but I use mine every day. I just
yeah.
it's just fantastic, but especially when you're cooking on a wood stove. You don't have
Hmm.
to worry about anything melting, nothing overheating. It really worked well. I think right there I'm getting ready to I'm making biscuits. Making biscuits. That was a challenge because we are biscuit eaters. My
Hmm.
granny taught me to cook. That's one of the first things I learned to cook. And I love them and we eat a lot of them. And so I had never baked them on a wood stove before. I had baked them over an open fire, with the Dutch oven and the lid. So I figured out if I put them in there and let them cook from the bottom, put a lid on it, and then flip them over and cook the top side, you know, then and man, they were good. And there's my little. We made a makeshift. We had because we had to have coffee,
Hmm.
and because where we lived in Louisiana, you lost electricity a lot.
Right,
But
and
we had
they
a
still do down there.
yeah, and we're big gas stove fans, so I had a stovetop percolator, and you couldn't put it was stainless steel, so you couldn't put it right on the wood heater. So we figured out if I would put some canning jar rings on the stove and then set the coffee pot on that, it would keep the coffee warm without continuing to cook the coffee. So yeah, cooking was a new experience
Yeah.
on top of the stove. It wasn't a real wood cook stove, it was a wood stove that I had to cook on. So,
Yeah.
it was
And you went from, a nice gas stove that you had in Louisiana, with what, a bunch of
four
burners, and
burners.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
nice
it
stove.
that you really liked, to doing this. How much time do you think it added to the day, cooking?
You astoundingly, not a lot. I would say probably an extra 30 minutes
Yeah,
at the
okay.
most, depending on what you were cooking. But no, once I got the rhythm, it
Yeah.
really wasn't that much extra.
Of course, we had the cooler, and then we got there and it was getting colder already, so we could set things out in the cooler and it would
Yeah,
stay cold.
yeah. frozen. We've sometimes had to bring it in because it would freeze out
Yeah.
there. Certain things, yeah.
The coconut oil would get really hard.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But any other challenges with cooking?
Um, I can't.
Do you
If
remember?
I not that I can remember, I'm sure there were, but we just adjusted and just became the rhythm of life. And I think the hardest thing for me was living without running water. The electricity I didn't mind so much, um, but the running water was a challenge because you're used to washing your hands. When you're cooking, you're used to just turning the sink on and washing the dishes, and we had to heat the water and then wash the dishes and then heat the water to rinse the dishes, and um, you had a little system set up. It didn't take long to get a little system set up
Yeah.
to get the dishes clean. And it's small, and it's different, and the cleanliness takes a little extra attention, you know but it's easily done.
Yeah.
And you still want to keep things clean and tidy.
Yeah, I tell you that little stove that we had in that cabin. It wasn't that big of a stove, but it wasn't that big of a cabin. But
Right.
it really was the center of everything. You
Yes.
heated your water on it. You got your heat from it. You percolated your coffee on it. You cooked on it.
Hmm.
So I mean, and when you were going to take a little shower at night, you had to heat the
Oh
water up
yeah,
and
yeah, and then
get a
stand in the other
rag and
pan.
yep,
Yep,
and
yep.
take a little shower. So get all cleaned up. So
and we
that
and
wood
we did that
stove.
every night. And some people were like, what do you do about bathing? I know at that time, but what are you doing about bathing? And I would be like, well, we heat the water on the stove. um, we hung something over the windows, even though there was nobody around. Still,
Hmm.
your mind says put something over that window, and stand in one pot, and then you get wet with the warm water, and then you pour that over. We'd help each other, and you soak down, and then you rinse, and it's not the same as a shower, but you were clean, and it felt good at the
Yeah,
end of the day. It
yeah.
felt good.
I'll tell you something. You said water was the biggest thing. To me, the biggest thing that shocked me is how much we need light. I mean, it had a couple windows in the cabin, but um,
A
you
lot of gray
know,
days,
yeah,
and
you have
winter's
gray
long
days, and it's
days.
it's still dark in that cabin, and it doesn't take long. The days are shorter
Short,
than what we
short,
were
yeah.
used to in Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
We only had what? I mean,
2 or 3 days of freezing weather in Louisiana. I mean,
well, I mean, light wise, I
Oh
mean, the
yeah,
days were shorter the
yeah,
farther north you get
right.
there in the wintertime. So, I mean, we didn't have that many hours of, any light, but lighting is essential. I mean, uh, whew,
We
if,
had collected a bunch of oil lamps because we were used to being without electricity, and one of them was my grandmother's, and then I just liked collecting them.
yeah,
So we had 4 or 5 oil lamps. I can't remember now.
yeah, we had some kerosene and,
We had some candles.
yep, we had some candles, and then we had a couple headlamps that ran on AA or AAA
Those
batteries.
are very handy.
I'm telling you what, if you ran out of electricity today, boy, you would give your left arm to have a few of those to be able just to get around, in the evening or in the morning and be able to do things.
Yeah, now the ones we have now are, they're LED rechargeables, but we still have a couple that run on AAA batteries, because if you can't recharge them, then
Yeah,
what's the point? you
right.
know. Oh, yes. That was some perfect sleep. Now, I'm going to tell you, you hear a lot about EMFs and electrical currents in your house, and you don't really think about the reality of that. But
Yeah,
when we were there with no electrical wires in the walls, no Wi-Fi anywhere, you knew the difference.
yeah,
Your body knew the difference. And even now we turn our Wi-Fi off at night now. We're getting some grounding sheets and things to help us with those interferences with your body, because they're real consequences.
Yeah, we really slept well. I mean, just got there and without no electricity and no cell phone signal and stuff, most of the day. It seemed, I mean, just the sleep was so much easier and better, but it could have been because I was doing a lot more manual labor.
Physical labor. It could have been, but I think the first thing I noticed was the quiet, and of course it was the mountains and the seclusion and all that. But still, there just was that feeling of rest. That,
Yeah. Until a bear starts walking around the
yeah,
house, or
well, clawing on the walls.
the wolves start coming in and howling. They'd come close, and I mean, those wolves up there in the mountains, they've got some timber wolves. I mean,
Yes, big old black
those
things.
are those are some big wolves.
They take
They're
down an elk. We saw,
yeah,
where they could take down an
yep.
elk.
They kill for fun. I mean, um, they would just kill one, and then you just go, a few hundred yards, and they'd just kill another one. They wouldn't eat it. They just leave
Right,
it
not
there
having either
and
one of
just
them.
taking the herd
And
out little by little.
the quilt that we used as a headboard, just to kind of change up the room, was actually one that my grandmother had made.
Oh,
One of the last ones she made.
and there was no chinking, and so there were some gaps in between the
Yeah,
logs, so that really
that
helped
blocked that wind on
blocked.
our heads.
Yeah, because when it gets, minus 30 degrees or whatever, I mean, that makes a
That
difference,
makes a difference. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, good sleep. And then, boy, that corner of the cabin where you had the counter, you did your cooking, you did your washing, you did your preparation. It was, a small counter, but it had numerous
Oh yeah,
applications.
when you live in a small space, um, everything has to have a purpose. Most things have to have more than one purpose. And yeah, that was a storage cabinet. That was everything. That little corner was,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we had that little table that was in front of that second window, um, where we ate and where I could work at, that kind of thing. And yeah.
Yep, just getting up and being able to, eat a little breakfast, look outside. You see, deer just walking through. You might see a herd of elk, 50 elk,
Yeah,
walking
just
by.
doing their thing.
So, I mean, the tranquility it's hard to explain. You really have to experience it.
Yeah, yes.
We had one couch.
One couch. Yep, that was all we had. And of course, it was just the two of us, so that was fine. Of course, the dogs were up there more
Yeah.
more than we were, but they had a huge bed that had plenty of room for them. It was very warm, and it was right by the heater. But they would like to get up on the couch, that's for sure.
Yeah. And
So,
we were so busy, trying to survive. I mean, if you didn't get out there and, we were behind as far as firewood. And if we didn't get out there and cut the wood and you could get like a little permit to go up into some of the
the
places,
state forest, yeah,
state forest, and cut some of that timber. And we took, of course, being there, we didn't have anything that was seasoned, so we definitely cut stuff that had
dead
already was
stuff,
dead,
yeah.
and some stuff that maybe had wind blown over the year before. And we cut all that, and then we'd have to haul it back, with our truck, and we'd have to uh, chop that up right there at the cabin, and that took a lot of time. I know this is one of your favorite subjects. Is there was an outhouse. It stood about 100 feet from the cabin, and I'm telling you, if you had to use the restroom, and it was 20 below out, I mean, you had to go. You waited
Yeah,
as long as you could,
you
but
waited as long as you could. And the thing was, like we talked about my Granny Brown, me growing up, she had this is just reality. She had a pee bucket,
hmm
and it was a white. I won't ever forget it. A white enamel bucket with a little lid on it. It had a red rim around it, and it had a handle on it. And at night, you didn't go out to the outhouse. Well, they didn't really have an outhouse. They had trees across the road, but that's a different story. But At night you would pee in that bucket when if you had to get up during the night, and then she'd take it out, and dump it over the fence in the morning. Well, I didn't mind the outhouse so much, except when it was so cold, but in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
because there are wolves, there are bears.
Yeah.
They even have mountain lions up there. And so, yeah, I did use a pee bucket. I'm just sorry, I'm going to tell you, because I was not going out there in the dark
Yep.
by myself.
Yep. I remember you
When
saying,
it's
no, I'm
20
not going out in
degrees.
the dark.
When it was 20 degrees. And we're talking dark.
Yeah.
There's no security lights. There's nothing. It's just the
No
stars and the
ambient lights
moon.
from a city over the hill
Nope.
or anything like that. I mean,
No front porch light.
Yep. It's
Dark.
just you in the dark.
Yep.
And then a friend let us use a composting tool of theirs inside. So, we had a little bucket with a lid on it that it was designed for hunting, a little camouflage bucket.
Mm-hmm.
But then that made it easier on you and easier to clean out in the morning and stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That outhouse was an experience. I'd say, when it's cold, that's the worst, but then again, you don't have to worry about bugs or any kind of spiders or anything.
Right.
And up there in the panhandle, a lot of people don't know there's no poisonous snakes in that area.
Right. In the area where we were, there are in some different parts, but in that area where
we were in the mountains, some reason they haven't made it to that area. So
I don't know what the reason was, but all the old timers said,
all of them said that.
No snakes here.
We've talked about it, but that small wood stove, it wasn't that efficient. It didn't have baffles in it. It was just steel put together.
It was a handmade stove, yeah.
But it wasn't that efficient. It took a lot of wood, but it did the job.
It did the job. That's right.
Of course, we had trouble with the creosote, in there, and it was getting clogged up. We had to take it apart, and I think we got a
we've got to post in a video on that.
Farmer's Lamp, where we cleaned it out that time.
Yeah.
But that was something that you had to feed.
Yeah.
And now, this was a big part of our weeks was, no tractor now, no wood splitter, no modern fire processing equipment, just a couple of axes, a 362 steel saw that Mom and Dad bought me for Christmas one year in Louisiana. And we just got to it. And the good thing about it, what I found out is that lurch that I cut, the softwood there.
Larch.
Larch.
Yeah.
That, they call larch. That stuff burnt so well. It's almost as good as the hardwoods.
Yes.
But it split so much easier than hardwoods.
Than oak or hickory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we would have to, on the snow, we would pull that sled with, and pull wood around. And we had right by the wood, the cabin there, we had a place to stack, and we were cutting wood every week. And then I figured out I'll take an old tire, put the wood inside that tire, and I won't have to pick up other pieces. And I just walked around and hitting it. And
you bolted that tire to a huge log, like a section of wood, and then put the wood down in the log.
Yeah, I started out with.
Did you start on the ground?
With 4 rounds.
Oh,
and put that, I screwed that tire down to it, and then, it works better with the big. With the big round.
Yeah, I had forgotten that you had started.
But it saved you time. It made it more efficient.
When it's hard on your back.
Yeah, and we had a lot of wood to split.
Now the snow. Okay, let's talk about the snow.
Yeah.
I am a Southern girl, down to my last bone, okay? And you have to understand, in the South, when it snows, at the most you get a couple of inches,
And it stays there for one day.
It stays there but everything shuts down.
Yeah.
They don't have salt trucks, they don't have snow plows. They have a lot of little bridges and things. Everything shuts down. I don't care if it's a flurry.
Yeah, they cancel everything.
Everything's closed down. Well, we go up here, and I think, oh, isn't this beautiful? And I loved the snow the first 2 years. The first 2 years we were up there. The third year, I was like, you know what? I'm over the snow. I'm ready to go home. We 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 I won't ever forget. Of course, I love, I just love adventures. So I was going from walking out of the cabin, going toward the little road where we walked, and I just was going to step out into the snow, walk on the snow, and I went in literally up to my bosom in the snow, and I had never been, and I just fell over face forward. And fortunately, I came up laughing, and he was trying to dig me, dig me out of the snow. And I came up laughing, and then I fell down again. It took me a long time to learn to walk in that much snow. I never did master snowshoes. I
Yeah,
tried.
you tried snowshoes, but you didn't never really
I just
master
never
them.
could master them. But
I tell you, with that much snow, though, you need snowshoes to make a trip.
yep, yep.
Oh,
It got
there
to where
you.
I had, you would break a trail for me so that I could walk because I just, yeah, that was, snow was something.
That was some of the best times. I mean, we got out in the snow and walked for miles. And when there wasn't any snow, those months we were there, I mean, we walked with the dogs for
Oh,
miles
five,
and
6, 7
never
miles.
see anybody, never see a car, never see it. I mean, never really even see a plane that I remember or
I
anything. I
don't
mean, it's just like
remember.
you're out in the middle of nowhere, just you, nature, and God.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were big and bad. If they saw an elk, they were taking off.
And then your favorite spot, that
That's on that
larger
state
stream.
property. Yeah. Oh, that was
What
a
was that?
stream. I thought it was Coeur d'Alene River.
I don't know. I don't think it
No,
was Coeur d'Alene River. I can't remember the name of it,
I
but
can't remember the name of the river that runs through St. Mary.
yeah, they
Oh,
call it
it
a
was the St.
river.
Joe
Oh,
because
yep,
we
it
always
was.
talked about
Yep.
St. Joe's River runs through St. Mary's, and the
Yeah.
St. Mary River runs by St. Joe. So
Yeah.
we never did figure that one out.
We always
Yeah,
thought that would be a pretty spot to put a little cabin on that overlook, and you
yeah,
just,
yeah.
that if you had a canoe, boy, you could access trap lines or
Well, it really was a trek to get down there to the river, though.
yeah, it
I mean, it
was.
wasn't just. I mean, that's a huge drop off there. It doesn't
Oh
really
yeah.
look like it in the picture, but that's a huge drop off there. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit you can tell it's a kind of a drop off. So you had to walk way around to get down, to the river. So but it was doable.
Yep. Always flowing. A lot of those, like the small stream that ran by the cabin for the runoff, it ran down and emptied into that St. Joe.
Yeah, and Bowser didn't care about the water, but Roxy was having
She's
nothing to
not a
do with the
no.
water.
And we had some experiences out there. I
Yeah.
mean, cooking over an open
Well,
fire.
we'd go out to some of the surrounding lakes and camp and um, just see the sights. And because I mean, it is honestly the most beautiful place. We've traveled a lot since then and seen a lot of our country, but it is
Yeah.
the most beautiful place. And in the right circumstances, I would live out there again. It's different now.
Yeah.
The politics and stuff has slowly changed, but it's
Yeah,
still
there's a lot of
beautiful.
people coming in from California that's kind
Messing up
of
everything.
changing
Yeah.
the way, the people there were so down to earth and so nice. We
Yeah.
met Helen out there,
Oh,
your
my
good
best
friend,
bud.
and now she lives in Coeur d'Alene, but she lived on her own place out there by St. Mary's out in the country. But a lot of good people out there, and they have a different way of looking at things. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like some of the Californians came in and they've seen people wearing guns on their hips as they just walk through town,
Mm-hmm.
and they would say something. These people moved in from California. They'd be like, "Hey, why are you wearing a gun on your hip?" Well, it's not. It's legal, and that's the way they live out there.
Mm-hmm.
In Idaho.
Yeah,
But
nobody messed with you. The crime rate was so low. I mean,
yeah.
there's
And people were just so trustworthy and nice. It
yes.
reminded me when I
Oh
was a
yeah.
kid, just leave your doors unlocked, leave your keys in your truck. I mean, that's just the way they thought.
Well, when the dogs and I would walk up Much Creek Road,
Hmm.
walk up to the top of it and back, people would stop and say, there's a bull moose running around. You better be. Are you sure you want me to take you back down the hill,
Yeah.
or a man would stop and say, I just want to be sure you're all right, and I never worried about. Of course, I had the dogs, but I was never worried. The I was concerned about the bears. You made me carry that bear spray,
Yeah.
because of the
Well, you really should have
bears.
been worried about the moose, because
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, we had a picture there, just stopped along the road, and there was a little baby, you know, and he was running off, and who knows where his mom was, the
Oh
cow.
yeah, yeah.
We were walking up Much Creek Road that day when we seen this bull, or no, cow sitting
Cow
down
laying
there,
down.
and
You
you,
saw her because you were like, look at there she is. She's real close, and I was like, I don't even see her, but you can see if you're listening to the podcast, you'll have to go watch the video to see what we're talking about. She was real camouflaged, and then about that time, this huge bull came out of nowhere and
yeah,
told her to get up and move,
yeah,
and we were like, what? Where did he come from? And
wait,
if they want to get you,
yeah, they've killed more people
and
than
bears,
bears.
yep, they sure have.
But I've never had one charge me in the wild. But they say that it sounds like a bulldozer coming through, because they just knock down trees and everything in front of them, and you really don't understand how big they are until you see one up close.
Right.
And we've seen quite a few out there.
That mama cow that we saw eating over on Rose Lake, and
Yeah.
her little baby popped its head up, and she turned around and said, "Roar," at you, you know, and you were like, "What?" We didn't even see it, and then we realized there was a calf there, you know. So
Yeah.
and the porcupines.
Yeah. Had some porcupines out there.
We were on a walk, and I saw this critter coming down the road, and I put the dogs back on leash because I thought it was a bear because the way it was walking. And then it got closer to me, and I realized it was a porcupine, a big old huge thing walking down the middle of the road. And he saw the dogs, and he saw me, and he turned and split off back up the mountain, you know. But I wished I still had that video to
Yeah.
share. But elk were everywhere.
I think my favorite were the elk. They're big.
They're
I
big.
mean, we were out walking, and 100 feet from us, there'd be 40 elk that would just come through, stop and look at you, and just walk on by.
Gorgeous. I've never seen anything as
And
beautiful.
a friend of ours out there shot an elk and gave us an elk to can the meat, and we, man, that stuff will ruin you for beef. That stuff,
I'm telling
so
you.
rich.
And he told us, he said, once you eat elk, you're never going to want beef again. And I was like, oh, come on. But I'm telling you, if you ever have the chance to eat it, it is fantastic. And of course, there were deer everywhere. You don't eat the squirrels out there. As a Southern girl, squirrel dumplings and things. They said don't eat the squirrels. They taste like a pine cone.
And they didn't. They were smaller.
Yeah, they were different kind.
Kind. They didn't have any of like the foxtail or the gray squirrels that we were used to.
Right.
But the dogs loved chasing those squirrels through the woods.
The squirrels, the deer, and the elk. And I don't know what they were going to do if they caught a deer or an elk, but they loved to chase them. And they would, when it was too cold or I didn't want them to go out, they'd stand up at the window and watch the deer and the elk move around and out front and be like, I want that, I want that, I want that.
Yep. That the wildlife was everywhere. There was just a lot more wildlife.
It's just unbelievable. Yeah.
And then we had some fun in the snow.
Of course. Yeah.
I had this idea that we're going to take a picture for the farmer's lamp.
Well, and I didn't know about snow.
Yeah.
You grew up where there was a little snow.
Yeah. And I said, stand by this tree, and I'm going to take the camera, and I'm going to hit the tree with the shovel.
You did not say that. You said, stand under this tree with all the snow on it. And I'm going to take a picture so they could see the snow weighing down all these branches of this tree. That is what you said.
And I hit that, and I ran back, and sure enough, here come the snow. It looked like a snow. She didn't even have a hat on in it. I mean, avalanche. And we built a big snowman.
Real snowman.
The neighbor boy, Austin, came down, and I helped him build a big snowman. That thing was about 7 foot tall.
It was huge.
And
well, you're 6'3", and there's
6'2". I'm 6'2".
There's the snowman way above your head.
And then it did the weirdest thing I ever seen a snowman do. Is it started to melt that summer.
He did the limbo.
He did the limbo, and he just kept going
all day long.
Break.
And then when he finally tipped over and touched the ground, he just stayed there for a day or two, and then okay.
And then the snow out there, of course, you not being used to the snow. I mean, you were scared to drive in the snow,
Learning to
and
drive in the snow. And it took Carrie. You tried to teach me, but it took Carrie needing to get to the airport for
yeah,
me to get in the truck and say, okay, you know what? I have to do this. And I had to break snow to get into her house. And
yeah,
I was like, breaking snow with a vehicle, and I don't know the road, and the road's barely wide enough for the truck. And I was just like, you know what, Lord? I have to get to Carrie, so here we go.
yeah.
I
No,
never did enjoy it. Even after all that time, I never enjoyed driving in the snow. I
and
did it because I had to.
there's so much snow out there in the mountains that those people live out there that they'll go. I mean,
Oh
they'll be
yeah.
driving on
Oh
that stuff.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they don't slow down. I mean, you've got log trucks. They'll be driving almost the speed limit, and they hadn't even plowed yet.
But they're so nice. You're talking about them being nice when the 4-wheel drive went out on the truck. And I was trying to get up that hill and it was spinning and spinning and spinning. And two men came over and said, darling, you got to put your truck in 4-wheel drive. I said, it says it's in 4-wheel drive. He said, but it's not. So they told me, said, just back down and go back over there and park. And so that's when I went backed up and, well, actually I slid
Yeah.
part of the way backwards. He said, do you want me to move your truck? And I said, no, I think I can. And he stayed around, until I got parked. And then I called you and was like, come help me.
Yeah. We went out there in two-wheel drive GMC. The first winter we just had the two-wheel drive GMC, and then we bought that four-wheel drive Ford F-350. And yep, that two-wheel drive that first year, everybody I knew had four-wheel drives, and they all got stuck at least once. And I never did get stuck. There were some hard goings, but I had a pair of chains that for the back wheels.
Mm-hmm.
The worst
But
thing
you're
that
a great
happened,
driver, though.
yeah, the worst thing that happened was
Oh, you're going to tell the story.
when I had those chains on and coming out of the mountain, because I had to end up getting a job in St. Mary's. So I had a good hour to drive, and it took me a half hour to get out and dig my way out. And with the chains on, I didn't.
To get to the road.
I wasn't really great at putting on chains, and so spinning like it did, it kept throwing the chains off. And I hadn't really got good at getting them tight enough, and it knocked the bolt on the brake line loose. And on my way to work going down the mountain, I lost all brakes. And so
I still want to cry thinking about that.
by the grace of God, I made it there. And then
Curves, not just downhill. I mean,
yeah,
we're talking sharp curves.
thin
And it was
mountain
just the grace of
roads.
God.
Yep, a lot to see in St. Mary's.
And then that one trip, that we went on to see it, to climb the fire tower.
Yeah,
Our luck, we caught the last snow.
What was that? May? No, it was March, April, May. I don't remember.
I think it was
May.
it was the end of May, I believe.
Somewhere in May, probably. But it was sunny down, down low in the lower elevations. There was no
even
snow.
the road leading up to the, that crossed over the mountain where the fire tower road was, there wasn't any snow on it. The first, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah. And then we got up there, and there is snow, a lot of snow,
like 10 feet.
And then they were out of we had reserved this old abandoned firehouse that they let people reserve, and then you go out, and you really need to bring a snowmobile, to get to it. But they had maps, but all the maps were gone when we got there. So we just kind of we parked. And we kind of looked at where it was, and then walking out on the snow, I mean, it was hard to tell where the path was.
Everything looks the same.
And we kept walking and walking and walking, and the snow got deeper and deeper. And Rhonda wanted to take cast iron to cook on and wood for
They had wood, but we had to carry. I wanted to carry the food
and everything.
Bedding.
And when I got there, I looked at it and I said, we're not going to be able to take any of this stuff. And she was like, oh, I really want to take it. I said, I will try to take this stuff, but I'm telling you, it ain't going to work. And I said, and I reserve the right to lay this stuff down in the middle of nowhere and walk off without it. So we did. We took a firewood axe with us. I mean,
how we hiked for over an hour
Yeah.
before, and we just couldn't find the road. There were no signs. They were all covered up in snow. There were no road, no trails or anything. And he put Roxy and I behind a snowdrift, and just said, "Okay, girls, wait right here. I'm going to go up here around this curve and see." And he was gone another good 40 minutes, and before he came back, and he said, "We're going back to the truck now." And Roxy was glad, but
Could not find it. We never did get to
never
that
did get to it.
old abandoned fire tower.
No.
We wanted to stay the night there.
Yeah, we
But I
did.
mean, down in the bottom, I mean, this is,
Yeah.
what it looked like down in the bottom.
Yeah, that's one of Roxy's favorite spots.
it was-
Roxy, if you haven't read Roxy's story, it's on the website. You need to read that. She was a very special girl.
Yeah.
She's no longer with us. She's been gone 3 years now.
Yeah.
But she was some special thing. She loved camping. She loved Cove Lake and
Yeah.
Cave Lake and Rose Lake. Those are her
Rose
favorite
Lake,
camping
yeah.
spots. Yep. Those are some of the best pancakes we ever had.
Yeah. Oh, cooked over an open
Cooked over
fire
an
on
open
cast
fire.
iron. Yep, that was some great pancakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And knowing how to cook over an open fire isn't just for camping. It's also essential, for surviving.
Yeah.
To know how to do that, to build a fire, properly build a fire, and then to cook over an open fire.
Yep. Everybody should be taught how to start a fire without any matches.
Well, our 7-year-old granddaughter, her dad's taught her how to start a fire. So she can. So if she can, I feel like, well, I should be able to.
Yep. You need to learn how to start a fire. That's always could come in handy someday.
And you need to enjoy yourself. Don't take it too seriously, and
yeah. When we got to see a lot of things out there, I want to talk about another skill that people might want to have, and that is foraging.
Oh, yes.
We
weren't big foragers till we got out there.
Yep. We had to forage, and there was different plants out there, so we had to learn what plants to go after, what berries to go after, what wildflowers were edible.
Helen was a huge help for that. She taught me about rose hips and the morels.
Yeah, and I'd
never had morels, never even heard of them till you had told me about them.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any experience with what they were. But
I like taking those morels, cutting them in half, letting them soak in salt water for
kill the bugs.
Overnight in the refrigerator if you got a refrigerator. But
we just set them outside.
Then I like taking them, whipping up some eggs, rolling them in the eggs, and then rolling them in a little bit of flour with some seasoning, and just
dropping them in the hot oil.
Dropping them in some coconut oil, flipping them over for a little bit, and then eating. Oh boy, they're good.
Oh, yes.
I like them that way. That's my favorite way to eat them.
Good stuff.
Well, that was a trip down memory lane. Boy,
yes.
beautiful scenery.
If you ever get the chance to see the Panhandle.
Yeah, it's worth seeing. Some pretty mountains out there.
Yes. Yeah, that's at the top of Much Creek Road. It is absolutely gorgeous. We didn't even talk about our Much Creek Road adventures. Helen told us a shortcut to come from our house to her house, and so we're like, oh, okay. So we go over the mountain, and when we say over the mountain, we mean over the mountain. And this road turns into like a wagon trail, and it runs along the edge of the mountain, and I am holding on with my fingertips into the armrest and the little handle in the truck, and he's fine, but I'm just like, I have a little fear of heights, and and it just, the road, you would think we can't get past it, but you just keep going because it really is a road, and then you come out the other side, and I told her that was the worst experience of my life, and we never went back over that way either. We went up to the top of the mountain to look and to take pictures and to camp even, but we never went back over that road again because, terrified. But anyway, if you ever get the chance to go, you want to go.
Well, that was our 8 months without electricity or running water, living in a 1-room log cabin. And
great memories.
Yep, made some great memories. Our health got better, I believe.
Oh, yes.
and that could be because we had no electricity or Wi-Fi or anything in the air,
We walked so much.
or we exercised so much we were doing a manual
Cutting
labor.
wood, yeah.
It was harder work than on the homestead in
Yes.
Louisiana.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Totally
So,
different. Thank
but
you for sharing
great
this
time.
time with us, and we hope you gained some insights and some encouragements along the way.